I found a live stream broadcasting from my bedroom. The viewer count was 0. The camera angle was from a corner of the room where no camera existed and had never existed in the 6 years I had lived there. The stream had been running for 72 hours before it appeared in my work queue. I am a content moderator. I have spent 11 years learning what nothing looks like on a screen, and what I am about to describe is what happened in the 3 months after I made the mistake of being the first person to watch it. My name does not matter for this account. My work does, because the work is how I found it, and the work is the only reason anyone might believe me. I spent 11 years as a content moderation contractor for a third-party firm based out of a low office park in suburban Ohio. The firm does not exist under that name anymore. It was folded into a larger compliance company 2 summers ago, and most of the people I worked with took severance and went into insurance or human resources. I took severance too. But I did not go anywhere afterward. I sat in my apartment for 9 months and tried to convince myself that what happened on the platform happened only on the platform, and not in the room where I was sitting. I have not been able to convince myself of that. I am writing this down because I need a record outside my own head. The platform I worked on was a mid-sized live stream host. Not one of the famous ones. It was the kind of service that handled niche broadcasts, security feeds, hobbyist channels, and a long tail of streams that nobody ever watched on purpose. Our firm handled the bottom layer of moderation. The famous streams, the ones with sponsors and money, had dedicated teams. We got everything else. We got the channels that the automated systems could not categorize. A stream of static for 13 hours. A camera pointed at an empty road in a country we could not identify. A man in a chair, not speaking, not moving, broadcasting for weeks. Those were our tickets. The job was straightforward. You watched a flagged stream for a defined sample window, wrote a short assessment, assigned a category, and moved on. The work was paced. You were expected to clear between 40 and 60 tickets per shift. Most of them were resolved in under a minute. A camera left on by mistake, a child's tablet broadcasting a ceiling fan, a retail security feed someone had accidentally made public. We marked them, forwarded them, and moved to the next one. The thing about that kind of work is that it teaches you what nothing looks like. People assume horror comes from seeing too much. In moderation, horror comes from seeing nothing for a very long time and slowly realizing that nothing is doing something. You learn to read a static frame the way a doctor reads an X-ray. You notice when a shadow is one shade too dark for the time of day. You notice when the dust on a windowsill does not move in the breeze coming through the window. You notice when a clock in the background is wrong by 4 minutes and stays wrong across a 6-hour shift. The training tells you these things are usually nothing. The training is mostly correct, but after 11 years your sense of mostly becomes very precise, and you stop being surprised when mostly leaves a small residue behind. I should be honest about my life at the time, because it matters. I lived alone. I had lived alone for most of my adult life, with 2 exceptions that did not last. My apartment was a 1-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a brick building from the 1970s. The kind with a flat tar roof and a parking lot that flooded every spring. I had been there for 6 years. I knew every sound it made. The radiator in the bedroom ticked when the heat came on. The neighbor above me ran a treadmill on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 in the morning. The hallway light outside my door had a ballast that buzzed if you stood still long enough to hear it. It was an ordinary place. I mention this because I want you to understand that I was not the kind of person who imagined things into the corners of rooms. I had trained myself out of that. The job required it. The ticket came up on a Wednesday in late October. I remember the day because I had a dentist appointment the next morning that I ended up missing, and the reminder card stayed on my fridge for a long time afterward. The ticket arrived in my queue at around 2 in the afternoon. It was flagged as an uncategorized continuous broadcast, viewer count 0, duration exceeding the platform's automated review threshold. That description was common. The platform's automated systems would eventually push any long-running zero-viewer stream into human review, because empty streams cost the company bandwidth and occasionally turned out to be hiding something the algorithms could not pass. Most of them were boring. A laptop someone had forgotten to close. A baby monitor accidentally pointed at the public internet. I opened the ticket the way I had opened thousands of others, with the part of my brain that handles routine. The thumbnail was dark. I noted that. A lot of streams that get pushed to review have dark thumbnails, because the preview generator picks a frame at random, and many of these channels broadcast through the night. I clicked through to the live view. The image was resolved. I looked at it for a few seconds without recognizing it, and then I recognized it. The frame showed a bedroom. The camera was positioned high in a corner, angled slightly downward, the way you would place a security camera if you wanted to capture the whole room without being obvious about it. There was a bed in the lower left of the frame, unmade, the comforter pulled back at an angle I recognized. There was a window with the blinds half drawn. There was a small dresser against the far wall with a lamp on it, and on the lamp's base there was a chip of paint missing in a shape I had looked at every morning for 6 years. There was a closet door, slightly ajar, with a winter coat I owned hanging from the inside handle. There was a book on the nightstand, face down, open to a page I had stopped reading on Sunday night. It was my bedroom. The angle was wrong, because I did not have a camera in that corner of my bedroom, but everything else was correct. The light coming through the window matched the actual light outside my apartment, because it was the same afternoon. The sun in late October hit that window at a specific angle I'd complained about for years, because it shone directly into the bed in the morning. It was hitting that window now, on the stream and in my apartment, at the same time, at the same angle. I want to describe what I did next carefully, because in moderation, you are trained to do specific things when you find a stream that appears to be broadcasting from a private residence without consent. I did those things. I copied the stream URL, I copied the ticket number, I logged the timestamp, I flagged the case for escalation under the unauthorized surveillance protocol. Then I sat for about 90 seconds and looked at my bedroom on my work monitor. There was no one in the frame. The room was empty. I was, at that moment, sitting at my desk in the living room, about 15 feet from the bedroom door. I could see, on the stream, the corner of the bedroom doorway and a sliver of the hallway beyond it. If I'd been standing in that hallway, I would have been visible. I was not in the hallway. I was at my desk. The stream was correct about that. I got up. I want to be clear that I did this slowly, not because I was afraid, but because I had to think about whether I wanted what I was about to do to be visible on the stream. In moderation, we are taught not to interact with the content. You do not comment. You do not engage. You certainly do not introduce yourself to a live broadcast you have just flagged. But it was my bedroom. I walked to the bedroom door. I did not enter. I leaned around the frame and looked into the room. The bed was where it should be. The lamp was where it should be. The closet door was ajar with the coat I expected. There was no camera in the upper corner of the room. There was nothing in the upper corner of the room. There was only the place where the ceiling met the two walls, with the slightly yellowed paint I had been meaning to repaint since I moved in. I went back to my desk. The stream was still running. The frame had not changed, except that the light in the window had shifted by the small increment that an actual sunlit window shifts over a few minutes. I waited. After about 30 seconds, the closet door on the stream moved. It did not swing. It shifted, the way a door shifts when air pressure changes in a room, when a window has been opened somewhere else in the apartment. I had not opened a window. I want to skip ahead briefly because I know how this sounds, and I want to address the obvious explanation before I describe anything else. I considered, immediately and seriously, that this was a coincidence. There are a finite number of ways to arrange a bedroom in a mid-century apartment building, and a feed of a stranger's room could resemble mine by chance. I considered that the stream might be from another unit in my building, perhaps a unit with the same floor plan, mirrored or not. I considered that I might be wrong about specific details. The chip in the lamp base, the angle of the comforter. I considered that my eyes were tired, which they were, because I had been on shift for 4 hours. I tested each of these. I went back to the bedroom and photographed the lamp base with my phone. I came back to my desk and compared the photograph to the stream. The chip was identical, not similar. Identical. Same shape, same position, same exposed white underneath the cream paint. I went back and photographed the book on the nightstand, the way it was open, the precise angle of the spine. I compared. Identical. I went back and pulled the comforter to a new position, deliberately, and waited at my desk for the stream to update. It was updated. The comforter on the stream was now in the new position, not after a delay, in real time, with the latency you would expect from a live stream, which on that platform ran about 8 to 12 seconds. So it was a live stream. From my bedroom, with no camera in my bedroom, with 0 viewers except me, and my view was being logged by the platform as moderator access, not as a public view account. I closed the stream window. I did not log out of the ticket. I sat at my desk for a long time. The apartment was quiet. The radiator in the bedroom was not on, because it was not cold enough yet. The neighbor above me was not running her treadmill, because it was Wednesday. The hallway light outside my door was buzzing the way it always did. Everything was the same as it had been 20 minutes earlier, except that I now knew that my bedroom was being broadcast to an empty audience and had been, according to the ticket metadata, for at least the duration that exceeded the platform's automated review threshold. That threshold was 72 hours. I called the help desk for our firm. This is not the kind of thing you do in moderation work when you find a piece of unauthorized surveillance. The protocol is to escalate through the ticket and let the platform's trust and safety team handle the takedown. You do not call your own firm. The help desk is for IT problems with your workstation. But I needed to hear another human voice acknowledge that the ticket existed. The help desk technician picked up, confirmed my employee ID, and asked what was wrong. I told her I had a sensitive ticket and I wanted to confirm that my escalation flag had registered in their system. She put me on hold. She came back after about 2 minutes. She told me she did not see any escalation from my employee ID in the last 24 hours. She asked if I was sure I had submitted it. I told her I was sure. I read her the ticket number. She typed for a while. She told me the ticket number did not exist in their system. She told me she would have to transfer me to my shift supervisor. I hung up before she transferred me. I do not know why exactly. Some part of me, the part trained by 11 years of looking at unlabeled doors and forgotten storage rooms, did not want my shift supervisor to receive a call about a ticket that did not exist about a stream that was broadcasting from a room that contained no camera. I went back to my workstation. The ticket was still open in my queue. The ticket number was still displayed at the top of my screen. I felt refreshed. The ticket disappeared. The queue updated to show the next item, which was a static frame of a parking garage in what looked like Spain. The stream URL I had copied was still in my clipboard. I pasted it into the platform's public viewer, the way an ordinary user would. The page is loaded. The stream was still running. My bedroom, slightly later in the afternoon, with the light through the blinds at a slightly different angle, accurate to the actual time. Viewer count, 0. I logged out of my workstation early. I told my supervisor I was sick. He did not push back. I had not used a sick day in 3 years. I drove home with the radio off, taking the long route, the one that passes the reservoir, because I wanted the extra 15 minutes before I had to walk back into the apartment. The horror of the situation was not that one stream existed on one afternoon. The horror was the way the existence of that stream slowly reorganized everything around it. Let me describe how that began. First, the camera. I spent the entire evening of that Wednesday searching my bedroom for any device that could be transmitting an image. I am not a security professional, but 11 years of watching surveillance footage teaches you the shapes that cameras come in. I checked the smoke detector. I checked the lamp. I checked the alarm clock. I checked the books on the nightstand. I checked the closet, including the inside of the winter coat. I checked the dresser, including each drawer and the underside of the dresser, where someone might have attached a device. I checked the bed frame, the headboard, and the underside of the mattress. I checked the window blinds. I checked the curtain rod. I checked the wall outlets and the light switch plates, unscrewing each one and looking inside. I checked the ceiling light fixture. I checked the place in the upper corner where the camera should have been, running my hand over the paint, looking for any kind of pinhole, any kind of seam, any indication that anything had ever been mounted there. There was nothing. The paint was original. The corner was empty. While I did all of this, the stream continued. I knew, because I checked it on my phone every few minutes, with the brightness turned low so the screen would not be visible in the room. The stream showed me in real time searching my bedroom, from the angle of the corner where no camera existed. I could see myself on my hands and knees looking under the bed. I could see myself standing on a chair to inspect the light fixture. I could see myself running my hand along the corner where the stream was supposedly being recorded from. On the stream, when I touched that corner, my hand passed through empty air. The angle of the stream did not move. The camera, if it was a camera, was not where my hand was. I stopped searching around midnight. I sat on the edge of the bed for a while. The room looked normal. The room felt normal. I went into the living room and slept on the couch with my work laptop closed on the coffee table beside me. I left the bedroom light on. I do not know why. The next morning I went back to work. I had decided overnight that the most rational response was to use the tools of my job to investigate the tools of my job. I logged into my workstation. I searched for the ticket. The ticket number did not exist. I searched for the stream URL. The URL returned no results in the moderation database. I pasted the URL into the public viewer. The stream was still running. My bedroom, in the morning light, with the bed made the way I had made it before leaving. Viewer count, 0. I checked the channel that was hosting the stream. On the platform, every stream is broadcast from a channel, and every channel has metadata. A creation date, an owner email, a registered network address, a history of previous broadcasts. The channel hosting the stream of my bedroom had no metadata. The creation date field was blank. The owner's email field was blank. The network address field showed a string of characters that was not a valid address. It was a 16-character identifier, the kind of identifier you would see in an internal database key, not in a public field. The channel had no previous broadcasts. The current broadcast had no defined start time. The runtime counter at the bottom of the stream, which on every other channel on the platform showed how long the current broadcast had been running, on this channel showed only a dash. I tried to report the channel. The report button was grayed out. I tried to report the stream itself, the way an ordinary user would. The report form opened, but when I filled it out and clicked submit, the page refreshed, and the form was empty again, as if I had never filled it out. I did this 4 times. Each time the form cleared. There was no confirmation. There was no error message. I emailed our trust and safety liaison directly. I had her contact information because I had escalated cases to her before. I described the stream, the URL, the channel, the absence of metadata, the missing ticket. I attached screenshots. I sent the email at 9:47 on Thursday morning. The email did not bounce. It also did not receive a reply. 3 days later, I sent a follow-up. No reply. A week later, I ran into her in the hallway near the break room. She did not recognize my description of the email. I asked her to check her inbox. She did, on her phone, while standing there. She had no email from me in the last 30 days. I had her open her sent folder and read me the last email she had sent to me. It was from June, about an unrelated case. The October emails were not in either of our accounts. My sent folder, on my own workstation, showed no emails to her since June either. I want to be honest about my state during this period. I was not sleeping well. I was sleeping in the living room on the couch, with the bedroom door closed. I had stopped going into the bedroom except to retrieve clothing. And I did that quickly, with my eyes mostly on the floor. I knew, because I checked the stream periodically, that the camera angle showed me when I entered the room. I could see myself, hurriedly, grabbing a shirt from the dresser. I could see myself not looking up. I considered leaving the apartment. This was an option I considered seriously. I had savings. I could have moved out, broken the lease, taken the financial hit, and gone somewhere else. I did not do this for a reason that I want to explain, because it is important to the rest of what I'm describing. I checked the stream from a hotel. I drove 40 miles north on a Friday afternoon, checked into a chain hotel under my own name, and opened the stream on my laptop using the hotel's wireless network. The stream was still running. My bedroom, empty, in the late afternoon light. From the corner that contained no camera. The stream was not tied to my apartment's network. The stream existed independently of whether I was present to receive it. If I had moved out, the stream would have continued broadcasting from a bedroom I no longer occupied, to an audience of 0 indefinitely. I want to say something about the 0. In moderation, we paid attention to viewer counts because viewer counts told us about reach and risk. A stream with 1 million viewers was a different problem than a stream with 1 viewer. A stream with 0 viewers was, in theory, a stream that no one was watching. But the platform's viewer counter only counted public viewers. It did not count moderators. It did not count the platform's own internal monitoring systems. It did not count any process that was reading the stream through a back-end interface rather than through the public viewer. A zero-viewer stream did not mean a stream that no one was watching. It meant a stream that no public user was watching. The distinction matters, because the stream of my bedroom had been running for at least 72 hours before it was pushed to my queue, with a viewer count of 0, which meant that during those 72 hours, something had been generating the broadcast, and something had been hosting it on the platform's servers, and the platform's automated systems had not been able to categorize it, and no public user had ever clicked on it. The stream existed in a space that was being observed only by the act of broadcasting itself. I came back to my apartment Sunday evening. I had decided in the hotel that I needed to find out what the stream was for, not what it was. I had stopped expecting to learn what it was. I needed to know what purpose it served. Streams exist for an audience. Even the most obscure streams on our platform, the empty roads and the unattended cameras, had an audience of one somewhere, the person who had set them up and forgotten about them. This stream had no audience. Streams without an audience are usually streams that have lost their audience, which is to say, streams that someone used to watch and stopped watching. I started looking, in my off hours, for any indication that this stream had ever had a viewer. The platform kept access logs for every stream. I did not have access to those logs directly, but I had a colleague who did. His name does not matter, but he worked in the analytics layer of our firm, 2 floors up from moderation. I had helped him with a personal matter the year before, something involving his sister's online accounts after she passed. And he owed me a favor of the kind that people in our line of work occasionally trade. I described the channel identifier to him. I asked him to pull the access log. He told me he would do it that evening from his home workstation, because he did not want the query running under his work credentials, and he did not ask why. He called me on Monday night. He told me the channel had 13 access events in its history. All 13 were from the same source. The source was the channel itself. The channel had been broadcasting to itself. I asked him what that meant. He told me it did not mean anything, technically, because a channel cannot subscribe to its own stream through the platform's normal architecture. He told me the entries in the access log were probably corrupted or placeholder data. He told me he had seen similar entries on other channels, mostly channels created during platform migrations or testing periods. He told me not to worry about it. Then he asked me in a different tone where I had gotten the channel identifier. I told him I had pulled it from a ticket in my queue. He was quiet for a moment. He told me he did not see any ticket in our firm's database that referenced that channel. He told me he had checked, because the channel identifier looked unusual to him, and he had run a cross-reference. There was no ticket. He asked me to confirm where I had seen the ticket. I told him it had appeared in my queue and then disappeared. He was quiet again. Then he told me he had to go, and he hung up. He stopped answering my calls after that. I went up to the analytics floor twice in the following week. His desk was empty. His name was not in the directory. When I asked the floor supervisor about him, she told me that no one by that name had ever worked there. I went to human resources. They confirmed his employment, but they could not tell me his current status because of privacy restrictions. They suggested I contact him directly. I had his personal number. The number was disconnected. I want to be careful here. I do not want to suggest that anything happened to him. I have no evidence of that. He may have quit. He may have moved. He may have decided that whatever I had asked him to look at was not worth his continued attention. He may have made the entirely reasonable choice to put distance between himself and me. I would have made the same choice if I had been him. The most likely explanation for a man disappearing from his desk is not that he was erased, but that he chose to leave. But the 13 access events stayed with me. The channel had been broadcasting to itself. 13 times something had reached into the stream and looked at it from inside the channel. The first of those 13 events, according to what my colleague had told me before he stopped speaking to me, was dated several years before the channel's current broadcast had begun. Before my apartment had been the bedroom in the stream. Before I had moved in. I kept a list of the 13 timestamps. I taped it to the inside of a kitchen cabinet, because I did not want to keep it on my computer. I looked at it most evenings. The pattern was irregular. The earliest event was from 11 years ago, in late spring. The next was 8 years ago, in autumn. The next was 6 years ago, the week after I signed the lease on the apartment. Each subsequent access was closer in time to the next. The 13th, the most recent, was 4 days before the ticket appeared in my queue. The intervals between events were shortening. The shape of the list, when I drew it on the back of an envelope, looked like a wave compressing toward a wall. I want to skip ahead because there is a part of this account that I have been avoiding, and I should get to it. About 6 weeks after I first found the stream, I started noticing that the stream was no longer accurate. I had been checking it every day, sometimes several times a day. The bedroom in the stream had continued to match my actual bedroom. When I changed the sheets on the stream changed. When I left a glass of water on the nightstand, the glass appeared in the stream. When I moved the lamp by 2 inches to plug in a charger behind the dresser, the lamp on the stream moved by 2 inches. The correspondence was exact, and after the first week I had stopped checking it for accuracy and had started checking it for the moments when I was not in the frame, to see whether the room did anything when I was not looking. It did not mostly. The room sat. The light changed with the time of day. The dust on the windowsill accumulated at the rate dust accumulates. Occasionally the closet door shifted, but I had eventually convinced myself that this was a draft from the hallway. The room behaved like a room. Then, on a Tuesday in early December, I noticed that the comforter on the stream was pulled back at an angle I had not pulled it back to. I went into the bedroom. The comforter was pulled back at the angle I remembered, not the angle on the stream. I went back to my desk. The stream's comforter was in the wrong position. I checked the rest of the room on the stream. The book on the nightstand was a different book. I went back to the bedroom. The book on the nightstand was the book I had been reading. I went back to the desk. The stream's book was a paperback I had owned years ago and had given away during a move. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom for a long time with my phone in my hand, looking at the stream, then looking at the room, then looking at the stream. The two were no longer in the same room. The differences were small. The comforter, the book, a pair of shoes on the stream that I did not own, a jacket hanging from the closet door that I had not worn in years. The lamp on the stream had a different shade. The stream was no longer showing my bedroom. It was showing a bedroom that resembled mine in most details but was slowly diverging. I watched it for the rest of that evening. The divergence did not accelerate. The room on the stream was simply a different version of my room, in the same apartment with the same layout, but with the small choices made differently. The book on the nightstand was a book I had once owned. The jacket on the closet door was a jacket I had owned years ago. The shoes were shoes I had considered buying once and decided against. The lampshade was the shade the lamp had come with originally, before I replaced it. The room on the stream was my bedroom, from a version of my life I had not lived. The differences were the small choices I had made and then unmade, or the small choices I had considered and not made. The room contained the residue of a life adjacent to mine, and it was being broadcast, in real time, with the light changing accurately with the actual time of day, from the corner of a room I lived in to an audience of 0. I checked the stream from the hotel again, a week later. I drove 40 miles north and opened my laptop and pulled up the stream. The room on the stream was the divergent room. The comforter, the book, the jacket, the shoes, the lamp. I watched it for an hour in the hotel. Nothing happened. The room sat. The light moved. The dust accumulated. Then, near the end of the hour, someone walked into the frame. I want to describe what I saw carefully, because this is the part that I have not been able to make sense of, and I want to be exact. The figure entered through the bedroom doorway, from the hallway, the way I would have entered if I had been in the apartment. The figure was a man. He was approximately my height. He was wearing a sweater I had owned in my late 20s, and donated when it no longer fit. He walked across the room to the nightstand. He picked up the book. He turned to a page near the middle, the way you turn to where you left off. He sat on the edge of the bed and read for about 3 minutes. Then he closed the book, set it on the nightstand, and stood up. He walked to the closet, took the jacket off the door, and put it on. He walked out of the frame toward the hallway. I could not see his face clearly. The angle of the camera was high, looking down. His head was angled away, but I could see enough of him to know that he moved the way I move. The slight favoring of the left knee from an old injury. The way he held the book in his right hand and turned pages with his thumb. The way he stood up from the bed, with his weight on his palms first. He was me. He was a version of me, living in the divergent bedroom, in the apartment I was not currently in, while I sat in a hotel 40 miles north. I drove home that night. I took the long route, the one past the reservoir with the radio off, the same way I had driven home the first day. I went directly to the bedroom when I arrived. The room was as I had left it. My book on the nightstand. My comforter in the position I had left it. The jacket I owned was hanging in the closet, not on the closet door. There was no one in the room. There had been no one in the room. The stream, when I checked it from my desk, showed the divergent room, empty, the jacket gone from the closet door, the book back on the nightstand. I have been trying since then to understand what I am looking at. I have a theory, although I have no way to confirm it. I think the stream is not surveillance. I think the stream is a record. I think that somewhere in the platform's architecture, in the layer below the public-facing service, there is a process that maintains continuous broadcasts of rooms in which choices were made that did not become the dominant version of a life. The broadcasts run with 0 viewers because the lives they record are not the lives that anyone is living, and so there is no one to watch. The broadcasts are kept running because the platform's systems cannot categorize them and cannot delete them, and so they accumulate in the long tail of 0-viewer streams that occasionally get pushed to human review. The ticket appeared in my queue because the system was looking for me. The channel that broadcasts to itself was waiting. The 13 access events in the log were not corruption. Each of them was a moment when the channel was reviewed by someone in some version of this work, in some version of this apartment. And the review concluded with the reviewer eventually deciding to stop reviewing. The intervals were shortening because the wave was reaching the wall. I have stopped checking the stream most days. I check it on Sundays briefly to confirm that it is still running. It is always still running. The divergent room continues. The man who is a version of me continues to enter the room periodically, read the book, put on the jacket, and leave. He does not look at the camera. He does not seem to know it is there. He lives in the room the way I live in mine, without thinking about the corner where the angle is being recorded from. I want to end with the things I noticed in the last 7 days, because they are the reason I am writing this account. Last Sunday, I checked the stream, the divergent room, the empty bed, the book on the nightstand which had changed again to a different book I had once owned, the light through the blinds, accurate to the actual time of day, and in the upper corner of the room, on the stream, there was now a small black object mounted where the camera should be. It is the size and shape of a domestic security camera. It was not there the week before. The man in the sweater, when he enters the room now, glances up at it. He glances at it the way a person glances at a smoke detector. He has noticed it. He has not removed it. He does not seem to know what it is. I checked the corner of my own bedroom on Monday morning. The corner of my own bedroom is empty. The paint is original. There is no device, no seam, no pinhole, nothing mounted, nothing attached. The corner is as it has always been. On Tuesday, the platform sent me an automated email of the kind it sends to ordinary users, not to moderators. The email thanked me for my continued viewership of a channel I had recently engaged with. It listed the channel identifier. It informed me that the channel had updated its broadcast schedule, and that as a returning viewer, I would be notified of future sessions. The email was addressed to my personal account, which I have never used to access the platform. The greeting at the top of the email used a version of my name with the middle initial included, which is a version of my name that appears on no document I have submitted to the platform, and which appears, as far as I can determine, only on the lease I signed for this apartment 6 years ago, and on the access log for a channel that has been broadcasting to itself for longer than I have lived here. I am writing this on a Wednesday evening. I opened the stream one last time about an hour ago. The runtime counter, which used to show only a dash, no longer shows a dash. It shows a number. The number is counting up. It has been counting up for what the counter indicates is several days. The viewer count is no longer 0. The viewer count is 1. I do not know which of us it is counting. The man in the sweater, in the divergent room, looking up at the corner, or me, at my desk, looking at the stream of the room I do not live in an apartment I do. The wave has reached the wall. The intervals have closed. The 13th access was 4 days before the ticket appeared in my queue. and I've been the 14th for almost 3 months now, and I find that I have stopped expecting a 15th. I think the list ends with whoever is watching when the count turns to 1. I think the count has turned. I think the channel has found its audience. I am going to close the laptop now. I am going to leave the bedroom door closed. I am going to sleep on the couch, the way I have slept for 3 months, with the hallway light on and the radiator ticking, and the neighbor above me silent because it is a Wednesday. In the morning, I will check the stream once more, and if the count is still 1, I will know which of us it is. If it is him, the room he lives in will be empty when he enters it tomorrow, and the book on the nightstand will be gone, and the jacket on the closet door will be the jacket I am wearing now. If it is me, you will not hear from me again, and somewhere on a platform that no longer exists under its old name, in a long tail of streams that no one watches on purpose, a channel will continue broadcasting from the corner of a bedroom in suburban Ohio to an audience of 1, indefinitely, and the runtime counter will keep counting, and the wave will keep moving, and the next ticket will appear in the next queue. On the next Wednesday in late October, in front of the next moderator, who has trained themselves out of imagining things into the corners of rooms. The corner is empty. The stream is running. The count is 1.